Hi, in today's video we're going to make an unfair comparison. I'm going to take a Rode NTG-2 microphone with a Zoom H4N recorder and stack it up against a Sennheiser MKH-416 and the Sound Devices MixPre 3 Mark II. As I said, probably not a fair comparison. The Sennheiser MKH-416 is an industry standard professional shotgun microphone, and the MixPre 3 probably outclasses the Zoom H4N Pro in just about every way. The reason for making this comparison is simple. Do I buy expensive gear once, having waited to save up enough money to buy the professional level gear, or do I buy what I can afford now and then upgrade piecemeal over time? When I first started making YouTube videos, my path was clear to me. I didn't want to have to use my camera microphone, as that makes for horrible audio. But I didn't have the nearly $2,200 Canadian it would take to get some professional level gear. So instead I bought the NTG-2 and the H4N Pro because I saw a lot of YouTubers using exactly that setup. And I thought at the time their audio sounded good and the price point seemed affordable. However, over time I learned a little bit about audio recording equipment, and I asked myself if I had the opportunity to go back in time and do it all over again, would I have done things any differently? So I think I would have to say yes. Knowing what I know now and seeing the quality of the equipment, I probably would have sacrificed some other part of my budget in order to go back and buy that gear back then versus what I bought when I did. First of all, the NTG-2 is a very gain-hungry microphone. And with the H4N preamps, just not a good matchup for that microphone. Now, I submitted that question to a Q&A session with Curtis Judd, and he gave me that exact same response, that they weren't a good matchup. And unfortunately, I'd already made the purchase at the time, otherwise I might have changed my mind. As I said about the MixPre 3 versus the H4N Pro, they're not even in the same league. Now, there's a lot of things that I grew to dislike about the H4N Pro as I used it over the years. The biggest issues being the way the gain is set for the inputs, the extremely clunky menu setup, and not to mention the length of time the thing takes to boot up. The MixPre 3 introduces 32-bit float recording, making post-processing a dream, and the cashmere preamps of the MixPre 3 are just delicious. And now, without much further ado, let's get into it. Roll the intro. Okay, so we moved outdoors in order to try and get away from any reverb, room noise inside. It's not too windy out here in this spot that I'm at right now. If I go around the corner, it was a little bit more windy, so I moved around to this side of my house, and we'll try and do a few experiments. We'll do a little bit with different distances from the microphones. I'll work my way around the sides and do some off-axis type of recordings. Now, right now you're listening to these lavalier mics that I have pinned to my shirt here. I haven't tried to hide them or anything because it's really not part of the task. What I have done is I've hooked up the Sennheiser microphone, which is this microphone. It's hooked up to channel 1 of the MixPre 3. And then one of these lavaliers is hooked up to the second channel of the MixPre 3. Now on the other side we have the Rode NTG-2, and that's hooked up to the H4N Pro. And then the other lavalier is hooked up to channel 2 of the H4N Pro. Now the H4N Pro is recording into separate channels, as is the MixPre 3. So that gives me a control on both devices. So we can compare the lavaliers across the Mix 3 and the H4N Pro, and the shotgun microphones as well to separate recorders. As a control, I'll also take the Rode and the Sennheiser and I'll put it into the MixPre 3, which I believe is the superior audio recorder. Now the MixPre 3 right now is set up to 23.98 frames per second, 32-bit float recording, and 48 kilohertz sample. And on the H4N, it's set to 48 kilohertz and 24-bit, which is all that the H4N is capable of. Okay, now facing the microphones dead on, I'm about, I'll give it, say, 12, 14 inches away from the very ends of the microphones. And right now you're listening to me speak on the MKH-416, and now you're listening to me speak on the NTG-2. Okay, so now I'm going to move back about a meter away from the microphones, give or take. Hi, I am now talking on the Rode NTG-2. Hello, I am now talking on the Sennheiser MKH-416. Okay, and I'll back up even further. I'm going to go about 3 meters from the microphones. Hi, I am talking to the NTG-2. Hello, I am talking to the MKH-416. So we can see just from the meters, and you can see them from a fair distance back, that that's probably going to be quite dim. But I'm expecting there to be a vast difference between the NTG-2 and the Sennheiser MKH-416 as you move away. Again, that NTG-2 is a very gain-hungry microphone, and right now those gain settings, I'm about 43 decibels of gain setting on the MKH and the MixPre 3, and I've tried to set an equivalent amount of gain on the H4N Pro. Now, I'm not sure the scales are exactly the same, but when I was up close to the microphones, basically I was peaking out between 20 and minus 20 and minus 12 decibels on each of the meters when at the control distance. So hopefully that'll be getting it pretty close. Okay, so let's do a little bit of off-axis recording. So right now I'm standing in front. I'm going to move 90 degrees to the right, and I'm more towards the Rode than I am the Sennheiser, so we'll do this as well to the left. Moving back around to the center, staying about 18, 20 inches away from the microphones. And now I'm going to move around to this side on the Sennheiser 416. Okay, moving back to the front again. And we're back at center. So hopefully that gives a good idea of the off-axis performance of those microphones. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to switch up the microphones, and I'm going to put the NTG and the Sennheiser both to the MixPre 3, and then I'm going to be able to compare the gain levels a lot better, a lot closer with each other, using the same scale on the same device, and we're going to repeat that last process. Okay, so I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, we're back, and now I've got everything sort of rearranged on the recorders. So right now both of these lavaliers are recording to the H4N Pro. And on the MixPre 3, channel 1 is the Sennheiser MKH-416, and on channel 2 we have the Rode NTG-2. Okay, so now I'm going to face these microphones, and now I'm listening to the MKH-416 on channel number 1 of the MixPre 3. I'm peaking out at about minus 20 to minus 12, and the decibel gain set for channel 1 is 43 decibels on the MixPre 3. Okay, and now I'm talking on the Rode NTG-2, and I have the equivalent setup on the gain on this. So it's currently set to 43 decibels of gain, and I am peaking between minus 30 and minus 20 decibels on the meter on the MixPre 3. So a definite difference in the ability of these microphones, and right now I'm standing at a distance of about 12 inches away from the microphone. So I'm going to step back, and we're going to do that again. So now I'm standing at about a meter away from the microphones, and this is the NTG-2 that I'm talking to at this point in time. And now I'm going to switch over to the Sennheiser MKH-416 at a 1 meter distance. Again, both microphones are set at 43 decibels gain. And now let me step back again. So right now I'm standing about, I'm going to say about 3 meters away from the microphones, and I'll probably have to speak up a little bit. Now I'm talking to the Rode NTG-2. And now I'm talking to the Sennheiser MKH-416, standing 3 meters away from the microphones. Okay. Now on the off axis at the same gain, we'll leave the gain at what it is, and I'll just move around and do that off axis test again. So speaking at 93 degrees, closer to the Rode NTG-2, moving back to center, and now I'm going to move around to the 90 degrees, speaking closer to the Sennheiser MKH-416. Now I didn't do this on the first try, but I'm going to move around behind here. I just got to watch out I don't fall over the embankment here as I do this. And now I'm speaking from 180 degrees behind both microphones and continuing around the side and speaking into the microphones at a 90-degree angle, approximately 20 inches away, and then back to the front and center of the microphones. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to match the gain or the actual peak levels to see what's the difference in gain that I have to give the NTG-2 in order to be able to match the performance of the MKH-416. Okay, so now I'm standing about 12 inches away, and both microphones are now receiving about the same input level on meters, and the Sennheiser MK416 is still at 43 decibels of gain, and now the Rode NTG-2 is set to approximately 49 decibels of gain. So a difference of, do the math in my head, 6 decibels on that scale. So, you know, not insignificant, but not too different, and of course well within the realm of the capability of the recorder. Okay, so having matched the two there at that setting so that they're giving the same setting, I'm going to give this a moment of silence and just let you hear what's going on around me. Okay, there's a little bit of sound that is around me here, so I can hear a little bit of crickets off in the swamp area there. There's I'm right on the water, so I hear a little bit of water and the waves lapping up on shore, and there's the odd bird chirp going around here, and lots of dragonflies. We've had a bumper crop of dragonflies this year, so you might be able to hear a little bit of that in the microphones. Okay, and then the last test that I want to do is I will set them back to the equivalent amount of gain and then do another silence moment. Okay, so both microphones are set back to 43 decibels of gain, and we'll give that another moment of silence just to see what we're hearing around us there. Okay, so that should be enough to sort of give a sense of the capabilities of those microphones. So at the beginning of that comparison where I had both lavaliers feeding into the different recorders, it sounded to me that the MixPre 3 was just a lot cleaner, a lot crisper than the Zoom H4N using identical lavalier microphones. While Lav 2 was just a little bit louder, I think that was just input gain setting differences between the MixPre 3 and the H4N. They don't have a common scale for input gain, with the MixPre 3 rating in decibels of gain and the Zoom H4N reading in input level from 0 to 100. The MKH-416 MixPre 3 pairing was just cleaner, crisper, was better at off-axis sound rejection from background noises and low rumbling wind sounds than the NTG-2 H4N matchup. My initial thought about the NTG-2 was it was doing a better job at the off-axis sound rejection than the Sennheiser, but this was more of a factor of the NTG-2 being quieter, i.e. needing more gain to have an equivalent sound level as the MKH-416. In a bit more review of the video, I came to the conclusion the MKH-416 was better at rejecting the unwanted sound, the wind noise, the off-axis noise, than the NTG-2. When both the MKH-416 and the NTG-2 were fed into the MixPre 3 and given the same input gain staging, it was very clear the difference in performance between the two microphones, and basically highlights that gain-hungry characteristic of the NTG-2 microphone. So overall, in my opinion, and for my style of voice, I feel that the Sennheiser MKH-416 is just far superior to the NTG-2. It's clearer, cleaner, has a better sound to it overall. And, you know, no wonder sort of the difference in performance between these two microphones, one being a $250 microphone and the other being a $1,200 microphone. You do get what you pay for when it comes to some of that stuff. Now, you can make the two sound somewhat the same, but there's a lot more work that goes into making the NTG-2 sound like a decent microphone compared to the Sennheiser MKH-416. And to me, that's worth the difference in value. The only thing, in my opinion, that the NTG-2 beats the 416 at is the fact that it can be battery powered if the recorder does not provide phantom power, while the 416 always needs phantom power available. The MixPre 3 Mark II is heads and tails better than the Zoom H4N Pro, and I'm glad that I finally went ahead and bought the MixPre 3. The Zoom H4N Pro is not likely going to see a whole lot of use going forward. Anyhow, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked it, please give it the old thumbs up and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this. And until the next video, be good to each other. Take care.